They were two free spirits who had finally found happiness.
They seemed like they were in love.
This could have been a fairy tale ending.
Until a horrifying crime robbed them of their happily ever after.
This guy that owed him some money and he stabbed him.
It went through his aorta.
There was substantial internal bleeding.
I'm begging you to come right now, please.
Police moved quickly to apprehend the killer.
She can ID the suspect.
Detectives have probable cause for the arrest.
This was a straightforward homicide case. Open and shut.
But do they have the wrong man?
She was concerned she had ratted him out.
His story's not adding up.
Everything was becoming a red flag.
As the investigation unfolds, there will be a new twist around every turn.
The magnitude of the dishonesty in this case was truly astounding.
What started out so simple became a web of lies.
I'm like, what the hell happened?
January 2nd, 2017. It's the day after New Year's in Des Moines, Iowa, a modest Midwestern city of 200,000.
It's a great place to live. You know, you have the conveniences of a large city, but it really does still feel like a small community.
You can still get to know your neighbors, walk around at night, and not have to worry about crime.
But no city is entirely safe. At 2:30 that afternoon, a Des Moines emergency operator receives an urgent 911 call.
The woman making the call reported that her live-in boyfriend had been stabbed and she needed an ambulance.
And he was arguing with his, I don't even know the guy, and stabbed him. Sorry.
Okay, where's the person that stabbed him at?
He's gone.
The victim is 55-year-old Andre Brown.
Is he breathing?
He's not doing anything. He's like, his blood all over him.
The frantic woman on the phone is 52-year-old Helen Frazier.
I'm begging you to come right now, please.
The emergency dispatcher contacts first responders.
Both police officers and an ambulance is dispatched to the scene.
Within minutes, the first officer arrives.
Back here, please. She could hear someone in the doorway saying, "In here, I'm in here."
Just past the living room, the officer finds Helen kneeling next to Andre.
The officer began to ask where the suspect was. Helen told her that he had ran out the door. So at that point, she just decided to render aid to the victim.
But as help arrived, too late.
They initiate CPR. The officer noticed that, he's gone. Like, she knew already that he was dead.
Chicago native Andre Brown never shied away from adventure.
Andre Brown was a veteran. He had been a Marine.
He was in Okinawa. He went all over the place. He did a lot of traveling.
Andre stayed on the move once he left the service, too.
Never liked staying in one place for too long.
He would get antsy if he stayed at a job too long. Andre always liked new adventures.
He had various jobs. He loved to cook. So he always would get in cooking jobs, at restaurants, pizza places. He worked in some factories.
Andre never hesitated to help out friends and family.
He was very generous with his money. He loved to buy things for his family, and he especially loved to spoil his nieces.
Regardless of what was going on in Andre's life, whether it be good or bad, his family could always count on him to just be there for them.
And Andre, more than anything, loved the ladies.
Andre was a bit of a ladies' man. He never settled down.
He would be in relationships, but Andre just did not want to marry anybody. I think he felt like it was going to constrain him.
He loved to joke around and make everyone in the room laugh. Andre was always the life of the party. He was the fun guy.
He just loved to have fun, loved to dance, let him get a couple beers in him. He was on the floor dancing.
After years of drifting from job to job, woman to woman, and town to town, Andre eventually settled in Des Moines, Iowa.
A lot of people migrate from Chicago to Des Moines.
He just felt free in Iowa, Nobody's smothering him.
Andre got a job, bought a house, and settled into a quiet life.
Andre being a vet, he was able to get the veterans to help him.
His most recent job was working at a factory. He was actually promoted to a supervisor position.
He found a local bar where he could hang out with friends after work. But there was something missing from his life.
He had a girlfriend, and they seemed to be in a good relationship. And then next thing I knew, they were not in a relationship.
In October of 2016, Andre seemed to rebound when he began dating 52-year-old Helen Frazier. Like Andre, Helen was originally from Chicago, but had lived in Des Moines for years, raised 3 sons, and had recently become a grandmother.
Helen adored her grandson. She loved playing with him, fussing over him. She would go into full grandmother mode whenever she saw him.
However, the doting grandmother had also known hard times.
Helen didn't have an easy life. She didn't really have stability. She had substance abuse, mainly alcohol. And, just when her life seemed like it was getting better, those demons always crept up to haunt her, and she ended up on the street.
In fact, when Helen first met Andre, she was living in a homeless shelter.
He told her, well, you come stay with me until you get yourself together.
Andre's no-strings-attached offer was a token of sympathy for Helen's situation.
He considered her a friend, and he was helping out a friend that was in a bad situation.
But it didn't take long before the friendship took a more romantic turn.
Helen moves in with Andre, and soon after that, they become more than just friends. They were falling in love with each other.
Andre's family was glad that he'd found someone.
He said she was cool. He said she was a nice person. She liked to cook, and Andre loved to eat.
Andre was really close to his nieces, and his nieces really seemed to love Helen.
Helen told them that she was going to do more than keep Andre well-fed.
She also joked with the family that she was going to keep Andre out of trouble.
Helen doted on Andre. She cooked, she cleaned, and they both provided a stability that they had never known before.
By Christmas of 2016, when Helen and Andre visited her family for the holidays, it looked as if the lifelong ladies' man was finally settling down.
Helen was really affectionate with Andre around her family. They just seemed to be head over heels in love with each other. And her family just felt like, maybe wedding bells were in the future.
But as the new year begins, their blossoming romance is shattered by a horrific crime.
Please, ma'am, would you come?
On the afternoon of January 2nd, Helen calls 911 to report Andre had been stabbed.
Come on, you guys.
First responders were able to get to the scene relatively quickly. They found Andre on the ground on his back, and they saw Helen there, crying.
The officer began to do chest compressions just to get the blood flowing until the medics arrived.
Despite her efforts, Andre remains unresponsive.
It was clear to her that he was already dead.
The first officer is asking, where did the suspect go? Helen tells her immediately that he left.
But identifying their suspect won't be a problem.
Helen was able to give the police a good physical description.
She said he led the area with the knife. So at this point, the police know that he's somebody they need to get off the streets.
At the beginning of 2017, it looked as if Helen Frazier had finally found lasting love and stability with 55-year-old Andre Brown.
Helen was really affectionate with Andre around her family. They just seemed to be head over heels in love with each other.
They were having a good time, and their relationship was only getting stronger.
Now, on January 2nd, less than 48 hours into the new year, a terrible crime has left the couple's happiness in ruins.
Andre Brown has been stabbed.
Helen calls 911, and police and an ambulance rush to the scene.
First responders arrived, and they initiated first aid.
Andre had essentially one injury, and it was a 6-inch deep stab wound to his right upper chest. Path of the knife cut through a lung, cut through his aorta, and Andre suffered a substantial amount of internal bleeding.
He didn't have any defensive moves, like if he was holding up his hands to try and block some kind of attack.
Unable to revive the victim at the scene, EMTs transport him to the nearest emergency room.
They brought him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
With the case officially a homicide, police at the scene shift their priority to finding the man who stabbed him. Andre's girlfriend, Helen Frazier, has given them a description.
When the officer arrived, Helen had told her that the assailant just ran out the door shortly after stabbing Andre.
She was able to describe him, including the clothing he was wearing.
While patrol officers search the surrounding area for the suspect, homicide detectives arrive and begin their investigation.
The scene was unusually clean for a stabbing. Because most of Andre Brown's bleeding had been internal bleeding,
Everything in the house looks normal.
There was food on the stove, in the oven, and there was a sink full of dirty dishes.
And investigators find no obvious murder weapon.
they'll search a murder scene looking for whatever weapons are there. And in a stabbing case, they're particularly interested in knives.
They do take all of the knives from the drawers in the kitchen and one submerged in water in the sink. They collect them for processing.
Then, after looking over the scene, detectives head back to the station to interview the sole witness to the crime.
Helen Frazier was already there. Patrol officers had already taken her there to get a statement from her.
They need to get her in a room and really develop as much as possible about what she saw and heard. So this is a critical part of this investigation.
So critical that detectives decide not to tell her that Andre is dead.
Have you heard anything about Andre? Is he gonna make it?
All we know is that they're at the hospital now, and as soon as we hear something, we'll let you know.
They wanted to get as much information out of her as they could without her shutting down if she knew Andre had died.
The detectives begin by asking Helen about her relationship with Andre.
How long have you known Andre?
Well, we met back in October, and we recently moved in together, and we were planning on getting married.
She told the police that Andre was her fiancé.
They were in love with each other.
Turning to the events leading up to the murder, Helen tells detectives she'd spent most of the morning in the kitchen.
She had been cooking food for a gathering that they were going to have later in the day.
She and Andre were intending to go visit her family.
They found like a pan of cornbread in the kitchen that looked like she may have been preparing.
Helen says that while she was working in the kitchen, Andre ran a quick errand.
Andre had gone to the nearby gas station and had bought some beer and then came back.
Shortly after Andre returned, a man named Oscar Evans knocked on the couple's door.
Oscar was a homeless man who was in his 70s.
Oscar Evans was supposedly a friend of Andre's.
Although according to Helen, that didn't mean Andre was happy to see him.
Oscar owed Andre money, and Andre had been upset about that in the past. So the two of them went out to the front porch to discuss the matter outside of Helen's earshot.
Helen says that Andre and Oscar moved back inside as the discussion turned into an argument.
That argument was over a debt, an $8 debt, and a coat that belonged to Helen.
This guy had borrowed a coat, and Andre got on him about bringing the coat back.
Helen said that she was in the kitchen cooking, but she could hear the two men arguing in the other room.
Did you see what happened?
No, I just heard them arguing, and then I heard a really loud thud.
She says she actually didn't see the stabbing.
Next, Helen says she went to the dining room to see what was going on.
She said that she could see Andre lying on the ground.
She also claims she saw Oscar Evans.
I saw him run out the door.
Did you get a good look at what he was wearing?
Yes, he had on a white shirt, a blue jacket, a black beanie, and he still had the knife in his hand.
Once detectives have Helen's statement, their next step is clear.
The police needed to look for this Oscar Evans guy.
There actually is a witness who knew the suspect and could identify him.
They're thinking, okay, this is going to be a slam dunk.
An hour after calling 911, Helen Frazier has identified the man who stabbed her boyfriend, Andre Brown, in the couple's Des Moines, Iowa home.
According to Helen, Andre's killer was a homeless man named Oscar Evans.
But Helen says that while Oscar and Andre were friends, they had an argument that day over money that Oscar had borrowed and never repaid.
She described the conversation between the two men. She described hearing Andre's body hit the floor and seeing the suspect just as he was leaving after the stabbing.
Once Helen names Oscar Evans as the suspect, detectives confirm his identity.
The officers showed a picture just to make sure that, it's the same person that Helen claimed, committed the crime.
Is this the man that you saw in your house this morning?
Yes, that's him.
With the suspect identified, detectives finally reveal what they've been keeping from Helen. The truth about Andre's status.
Andre's dead.
Throughout her interview with law enforcement, Helen had no idea that Andre had died. They waited to the very end of the interview to let her know that he had passed away.
The news hits Helen hard.
She was extremely distraught and crying.
After the interview, the detectives drive Helen to her son's house.
Helen clearly could not go back home because her house at that point was an active crime scene.
The family does its best to console Helen and process the news that her boyfriend has just been murdered.
Helen's family was shocked. To their knowledge, he was on his way to be the new member of the family.
After dropping Helen off, detectives reach out to Andre's family with news of his death.
My brother, my twin, came and knocked on my door, screaming, Andre is dead. I'm like, are you sure? He was like, some dude came by the house and killed Andre.
The detectives assure Andre's family it's only a matter of time before they have Andre's killer in custody.
When she identified Oscar as a suspect, police put out an APB to inform all their officers that they needed to find this man. The quicker they find the person that did this, the quicker they can get a dangerous person off the streets.
However, tracking Oscar down isn't easy.
Oscar was homeless, so even when they were able to ascertain past addresses, they were still having a difficult time being able to locate him.
Detectives comb the city looking for their suspect.
It took about 24 hours, but they found him at a nearby soup kitchen.
Brought into the station for questioning, Oscar doesn't deny knowing Andre and Helen.
He had actually stayed at Andre's house for a couple of days earlier that fall in October of 2016. So he knew both Andre and he knew Helen.
I needed a place to stay a couple of months back, and Andre let me crash at his place for a couple of days.
Let him come and stay with him, loaning him money, clothes, That was Andre. If he had it and you needed it, he'd give it to you.
Oscar admits that he had borrowed money from Andre.
Oscar told the police that he and Andre would lend each other money from time to time, and neither thought much of it.
What's this all about? It was only a couple of dollars.
When detectives tell Oscar that they're investigating Andre's murder, he appears shocked by the news.
What?
Oscar actually seemed surprised that Andre had died. He had not heard that information.
Oscar appears even more confused when detectives tell him a witness has identified him as Andre's killer.
No way, I would never hurt Andre.
He denied that he was the person who stabbed Andre.
Oscar also denies even being at Andre's house the day he was killed, claiming he spent the whole day at a local motel.
He got a check at the end of the month and was able to stay at a motel for a few days.
The only time he had left that day was either to go to a grocery store or a convenience store that was adjacent to where he was residing.
When detectives ask if there's anyone who can verify his whereabouts at the time of the murder, Oscar suddenly comes up short.
I was alone. I swear I did not kill Andre.
He stayed in that motel room by himself, so he really didn't have any alibi witnesses that could corroborate where he was.
The lack of an alibi isn't the only reason detectives doubt Oscar's story.
The police did notice that the clothing that Oscar was wearing was very similar to the clothing that Helen had described.
Despite the suspect's denials, we had an eyewitness that saw that he was responsible for the death of Andre Brown.
At this point, the police consulted with the local district attorney's office and they decided to charge Oscar Evans with first-degree murder.
The detectives have made an arrest, but their investigation is just beginning.
Some might assume that once Oscar is arrested, the work is done, but that's far from true.
Is this case closed, or will new evidence turn the investigation upside down?
What initially appeared to be a clear-cut case, it was not clear-cut at all.
All of a sudden, detectives have had this wrench thrown at them, and they're wondering what's going on here.
Less than 48 hours after the murder of Andre Brown, detectives have a suspect in custody, 73-year-old Oscar Evans.
The case looked very strong, given an eyewitness naming a suspect.
Andre's girlfriend, 52-year-old Helen Frazier, made the identification.
The entire basis for Oscar Evans being charged with murder was Helen's very detailed and consistent testimony.
However, even though an arrest has been made, the detective's work is far from over.
It's at that point that law enforcement must go forth and find evidence that would corroborate the detailed accounts that Helen had provided to them.
Detectives begin by going door to door in Andre and Helen's neighborhood.
They went to nearby businesses to look for security footage that would show the suspect in the area heading toward Andre's house.
Oscar didn't have a car, so he walked everywhere.
But the canvas comes up empty.
None of the neighbors detectives talked to recalled seeing Oscar in the area that afternoon.
Detectives also strike out with the security video.
When they obtained that security footage, there was no sign of this suspect going to or from Andre's house.
Was it possible Oscar chose his route so he would not be seen?
Unable to place Oscar at the scene, detectives look for other evidence that could tie him to Andre's murder.
The police obtained a search warrant for a storage locker that Oscar had at the YMCA. They were looking for knives, looking for bloody clothes, anything that would help them create an airtight case.
Once again, detectives come up empty-handed.
They found nothing of evidentiary value in his locker.
The detectives could not find any evidence that would connect Oscar to the scene of the murder.
However, they do find video of Oscar from later that afternoon.
Police were able to find security footage of him returning empty cans just 2 hours after the stabbing had taken place.
It's not what detectives would expect from a killer on the run.
Returning, pop cans for money just a couple hours after the homicide seemed like an unusual activity for somebody that had just killed another human being.
Is it possible Helen made a mistake when she identified Oscar as the killer?
According to her statement, she was in the kitchen the entire time leading up to the murder.
If Helen had witnessed the crime, why was there no other evidence of Oscar being there?
It's clear to detectives they need to speak to Helen again because they found no evidence that could corroborate the story that she gave them on the day of the crime.
Hoping they missed something the first time, detectives bring Helen in for a second statement.
Helen's demeanor was very polite. She was a soft-spoken, yes ma'am, no sir type of person.
Despite that, what Helen says next leaves detectives stunned.
They confronted her with the fact that security cameras didn't show the suspect coming or going to the house.
She totally changes her story at that point.
Helen, we need you to tell us what really happened the day that Andre was stabbed.
I know, I'm sorry. It wasn't Oscar that came to the house that day.
She admitted that he had nothing to do with it.
Helen then pointed the finger of blame at Duke Hines.
It was Duke.
According to Helen, it was Duke Hines, not Oscar Evans, who'd come to the house that afternoon.
So story number 2 from Helen was that Andre had returned home with this second suspect. She claimed that Andre and the second suspect had gone upstairs to smoke crack cocaine. She knew that, she said, because she could smell it.
Once again, Helen says that an argument ensued.
She's now saying that wasn't this disagreement over the $8. It was now some sort of drug deal.
They came to the house together, Andre and Duke. They went upstairs, and the next thing I know is I hear Duke accusing Andre of stealing from him.
Helen says that she could hear the two men shouting upstairs.
But this time, Helen says it was Andre who escalated the situation.
Andre then went down to the kitchen and armed himself with a knife.
He wasn't going to hurt Duke. He was just trying to scare him to get him to leave.
According to Helen, when Andre confronted Duke, his plan went horribly wrong.
Duke took the knife from Andre and stabbed him.
The two men struggle, and according to Helen, suspect number 2 quickly disarms Andre, stabs him, throws the knife in the sink, and leaves the house.
That's the first time that we hear that this knife that was found in the sink was the murder weapon.
Horrified that they've arrested the wrong man, detectives ask Helen why she tried to pin the murder on Oscar.
I was afraid of what Duke might do to me if I told you all the truth.
Helen was desperate. She was really nervous about what would happen if Duke found out she was talking to the police.
But she had to tell them something, so she blamed Andre's death on Oscar Evans.
She explained that he had been disrespectful toward her in the past and had, in fact, she claimed, stolen a coat from her, so she was trying to get back at him.
She now says she's sorry she did it.
He was sitting in jail at the time she was speaking those words. As Helen's interview was still taking place, police left the room, contacted our office, and had us start the process of dismissing the charges.
County Attorney's Office dismissed the case and got him out of jail.
When police get an arrest so quickly, less than a day after it happens, the public is usually pretty confident that they got the right guy.
Police sent out a press release to inform the community that Oscar had been cleared.
With Oscar Evans cleared, detectives begin searching for their new suspect.
They were able to ascertain that there were two living in Des Moines, but the one Duke Hines was living only a few blocks away from Andre and Helen's house, so they pretty much figured that that had to be the individual that she was talking about.
Brought in for questioning, Duke is initially reluctant to talk.
He didn't want to get framed or railroaded for a crime he didn't commit.
How do you know Andre Brown and Helen Frazier?
Pressed by detectives, Duke denies having any contact with Helen or Andre, much less coming to their house.
I mean, I've seen them around town, but I wouldn't say I know them.
Duke claims to know even less about Andre's murder. In fact, he tells detectives he wasn't even in town when the murder occurred.
Where were you the afternoon of January 2nd?
I drive a truck. I was out of town that day.
He was a truck driver that was actually on the road, gassing up his rig at about the time of the stabbing.
You can check my truck logs.
When detectives contact the trucking company, they learn Duke's story holds up.
Based on the evidence that the police found, there was no way that Duke could have been at the house.
Just to be thorough, investigators also check out the other Duke Hines living in Des Moines.
The second one was almost a shut-in in the Des Moines area, and the fact that he had gone to Andre's home to stab him just did not make sense.
He didn't seem to have any connection to Helen Frazier or Andre Brown, and so it just appears that he was unrelated to the case entirely.
Helen Frazier has twice identified a suspect in the murder of Andre Brown, and investigators have established that neither of the men were involved in the crime, which tells detectives one thing.
Something's up, something's not right.
Helen had to be hiding something.
In the aftermath of her boyfriend Andre Brown's death, 52-year-old Helen Frazier has falsely accused two different men of his murder.
Detectives even arrested one of them, Oscar Evans, who sat in jail for several days on murder charges.
The second man Helen accused of the crime was a truck driver named Duke Hines.
Duke provided the police an alibi that they were able to actually confirm.
Investigators know that Helen is intentionally sending them in the wrong direction.
They're dealing with someone who's lying to them at every turn.
Despite that, detectives have little choice but to go back to her.
They brought Helen in for a third interview. In interview number 3, Helen changes her story dramatically again.
The real murder, according to her, was this guy named Mark Keegan, a drug dealer in Chicago.
I'm just so scared.
Now the story was that Andre Brown was a drug dealer and had received drugs from Keegan, sold them and used some of them, but didn't have enough money to pay Mark Keegan back. So Keegan stabbed him.
Helen says she was afraid that if Mark found out she'd told police the truth, he'd kill her too.
She doesn't want Mark Keegan to be upset with her because she's scared of him.
But now she's ready to cooperate.
She gives us a specific address in Chicago.
The details are impressive, but not convincing.
Detectives are more than a little suspicious of Helen's new story.
You know we're going to have to verify that information.
Yes, of course.
And if we find out that you're lying again, we're coming right back to you.
At this point, the police don't believe a word that she's saying, but they have to follow up on it.
Detectives spend the next few days attempting to locate Mark Keegan, but are unable to find anyone by that name.
Helen had tried to pin the murder on 3 different people, all of whom police had eventually ruled out as suspects.
Now investigators have a 4th suspect.
They had been suspicious of her prior to this interview, but after this interview, police start to investigate Helen.
Digging through records of police calls, detectives make an alarming discovery about her relationship with Andre.
They found that police had been called to Andre's home to deal with conflicts between Andre and Helen 5 different times between October of 2016 and January of 2017.
It was always Andre calling the police. It was never once Helen Frazier calling and saying she needed help.
The last call came on December 10th, 2016, not quite a month before Andre was murdered.
During this particular call in December, Helen and Andre were both very intoxicated. Andre was telling the officer that she was just tearing everything up. I mean, just throwing everything everywhere.
Andre was saying, "This is my house and I want her out of the house." Helen had only lived with Andre since October of 2016 and was not on the lease.
At the time, there was little the police could do, since legally Helen was considered a resident there.
Officers explained to Andre that until he got her evicted, there was nothing they could do. It was her home as well.
You got to go through the courts to evict her out of your house. And Andre didn't want to go through all of that. He just thought he could just tell her and she'd finally leave.
There were no more calls for the rest of December, and it appeared that the couple had patched up their differences.
Police deal with this type of situation all the time. You know, somebody calls intoxicated. They claim that the person living with them is doing something and they need them removed from the premises. But the next morning, they sober up and everything's fine.
But now that Andre's dead, detectives wonder if the tension between them had flared up again, and this time spiraled out of control.
Helen Frazier is somebody who has had several encounters with law enforcement before. She's had several convictions.
She had not only a criminal history, but a pretty astoundingly violent criminal history. She had some 6 prior assault convictions.
But there's no history of Helen ever trying to hurt Andre.
In previous calls where police came out to the house, Andre never made mention of Helen assaulting him.
Hoping to learn more, detectives reach out to the man Helen originally accused of killing Andre, his friend, Oscar Evans, who's more than willing to point the finger back at Helen.
When the police met with Oscar, they first wanted to apologize for having falsely arrested him in the first place based upon the testimony from Helen.
The apology accepted, detectives ask Oscar what he knows about Helen and Andre's relationship.
He tells us at this meeting that he witnessed a confrontation between Andre and Helen, where they were arguing, during which Helen actually gets out a knife and holds it, threatening at Andre.
After that, that's when I decided I had to find someplace else to go.
Detectives now know that Helen was capable of pulling a knife on Andre. But did she wield the knife that killed him? The results from the forensic lab don't give a definitive answer.
The knife that was the suspected murder weapon was thrown into a sink full of dirty dishes that was filled with warm, soapy water. So the police were not able to get any forensic evidence in the form of DNA or fingerprints.
With forensics a dead end, detectives shift their focus to retracing Andre's movements leading up to the murder.
In Helen's statement, she has said that Andre had walked to a nearby convenience store to buy beer and cigarettes.
Which means the clerk was probably one of the last people Andre spoke to before he died.
Detectives locate the convenience store clerk and ask him for a statement.
Do you remember who was working at the gas station on January 2nd?
Yeah, that was me.
Do you remember seeing this man?
While they were talking, Andre said he's having, this argument with his girlfriend.
The clerk said that Andre thought Helen was taking advantage of him.
Yeah, he said
That morning before he died, he was up at the gas station telling somebody that people come in your house and they take over. And I think that was the issue with her. She was trying to take over Andre's house.
And according to the clerk, Andre had had enough.
He said he wanted her gone.
He's going to have to kick her out later that day.
Did a confrontation between Andre and Helen end in violence?
This information seemed pretty significant to the detectives because if Andre kicked Helen out, she had no place else to go.
She has been homeless before. She didn't want to be homeless again.
Detectives believe they've found a motive for Helen to stab Andre, but they'll need more evidence to make an arrest.
The police took a look at the cell phone history of Helen's home from the day of the murder.
What they found was, of course, a 911 call and knew that phone call had been made.
But it's the call Helen makes right before that makes detectives take note.
Immediately before the 911 call, Helen had been on the phone with her mother for some 11 minutes. She hangs up with her mother and then very quickly calls 911.
The timing between the two calls was 40 seconds, and that leads detectives to an inescapable conclusion.
We do not think that the stabbing could have happened in that 40 seconds.
And the short time between those two phone calls didn't seem like it was enough time for an argument to develop and a stabbing to take place.
We called her, and we were talking to her on speakerphone. I said, "What really happened, Helen?" I said, "Your story does not make sense to me. What happened to my brother?" And she got quiet, and she was like, "Well, the police, they looking into it. I'm sure they're gonna find out who did it soon." And click, and she hung up.
Helen must have called her mother after Andre was stabbed.
For that 11 minutes, Andre was lying on the ground bleeding to death before she hung up with her mother and called 911.
What did Helen say during her call with her mother?
The police knew that they needed to speak to Helen's mother.
Helen had essentially confessed.
More than 2 weeks after someone stabbed Andre Brown to death in his Des Moines, Iowa home, detectives suspect that his girlfriend, 52-year-old Helen Frazier, struck the fatal blow.
We had a suspect that had falsely implicated two different real people and third imaginary person that she appears to have made up.
And now detectives have made a suspicious discovery about the moments leading up to Helen's 911 call reporting the stabbing.
They find this 11-minute phone call with her mother right before calling 911.
To find out what Helen said during that call, detectives contact her mother.
They tracked her down in Chicago, and two investigators drove to Chicago to do an interview with Helen's mother. That interview was long, it was confusing, it was garbled. Clearly, Helen's mother did not want to implicate her in criminal conduct.
But she also doesn't want to lie to the police.
She reluctantly acknowledges that when she talked to Helen that day, Helen had essentially confessed to her that she had stabbed Andre. And Helen's mother said that she advised Helen to call 911.
When detectives bring Helen in for another interview, her fourth, she admits to making the call.
Why wasn't the first call after the stabbing to 911?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do.
She admitted that she did make that phone call before calling 911, and she said it lasted maybe a minute.
When they confront her with the fact that the phone call was 11 minutes and 14 seconds, kind of locks up and doesn't have a good explanation for that.
You need to start telling us the truth.
Caught in another lie, Helen makes one last attempt to explain herself.
She says she has no memory of what happened that day.
But for Helen, it's too little, too late.
The police arrest her for the murder of Andre Brown.
She's taken into custody on first-degree murder charges. She's also taken into custody on 2 counts of malicious prosecution for the people she falsely accused.
But she can't be charged for making her third false accusation against a drug dealer named Mark Keegan.
We're unable to find an actual Mark Keegan.
Helen's arrest is bittersweet for Andre's family.
He was helping her. He let her move in with him. And then you kill him for helping you? And then you lie about it?
Helen's repeated lies present a challenge for the defense when she goes on trial at the end of January 2019.
The cross-examination writes itself. You actually told the police that this other person did it, didn't you? And then why in the world should we believe you now when you lied to the police about that?
But her lawyers may have figured out a way around that.
Instead of facing a jury, Helen opts to let a judge decide her fate in a bench trial.
Frequently, a defendant will agree to have a bench trial when there are pieces of the case that a jury is likely to react to emotionally. Helen's repeated lies were that type of emotional evidence.
Going before a judge removes any possibility for emotion or bias from the equation.
Prosecutors open their case by focusing on Helen's emotions on the afternoon of the murder.
Helen's motive was probably the fact that Andre was telling her again to get out of the house. She was cooking a holiday meal to share with Andre, so I'm sure it was unusually offensive that he was telling her to get out of the house while she was cooking this meal.
That was just too much. It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
She was just not going, period. No matter what Andre did, she was not leaving.
According to the prosecution, in a moment of rage, Helen stabbed Andre in the chest with a kitchen knife.
I don't even think she meant to stab him where she stabbed him. And I think she meant to scare him. But it just went too far.
However, the prosecution argues that once Helen stabbed Andre, instead of trying to save him, she called her mother.
The phone call to her mother after the stabbing was inflicted was a critical piece of evidence to show intent and malice. She let Andre lay on the floor, bleeding for 11 minutes and 14 seconds before she called 911.
And she didn't make the call until she had her first false accusation ready.
It was a woman who not only ended the life of her boyfriend, she immediately turned around and pointed the finger at somebody else who she knew to be totally innocent.
This guy that owed him some money or something, he stabbed him.
When it's the defense's turn, Helen takes the stand and tells yet another story, this time claiming she acted in self-defense.
This time, Helen actually admits to stabbing Andre, but she claims it was in self-defense.
She says it happened while she was working in the kitchen with a knife in her hand.
She says that they got into a verbal altercation.
He's been drinking, he's arguing with her, he tries to kick her out of the house. He comes at her aggressively.
She overreacts. She spins on Andre and pushes him away, still having the knife in her hand.
But will Helen's final version of events hold up any better than the previous ones?
I've never known Andre to argue or fight with anybody.
We had nothing other than Helen's testimony to substantiate a claim of self-defense. And by that time, Helen had been so wildly inconsistent that her testimony just wasn't worth very much.
The presiding judge agrees, and on February 15th, 2019, delivers a verdict.
The judge issued a written ruling finding Helen guilty of murder in the second degree.
He was sentenced to 50 years, but at least 35 years before she'll be eligible for parole.
She receives 2 additional years for the 2 counts of malicious prosecution.
Helen Frazier was in her early 50s when she was arrested, so she'll be in her mid to upper 80s before she's released from prison.
Although for Andre's family, no amount of prison time will make up for what Helen took from them.
The thing about homicide cases is, in the end, there's no winner. We've still got a victim of a violent crime that died. We've still got family members that lost a loved one.
And Andre's family can't forget that he was killed by someone he'd taken in and given a home.
It started out as a kindness that ended in him being stabbed to death by the person that he was trying to help. It turns you cold. It really does.
He was a rapper on the rise.
He was in demand, and we were everywhere.
Hey, we on the way to the next destination. Y'all get ready.
His talent was undeniable.
He was really on his way.
She was his #1 fan.
She really did support his dreams and his goals.
She was his muse.
But then, the music stopped.
There was a pool of blood gathering around him.
I couldn't believe it. It got to be a nightmare.
Would this up-and-coming rapper's career end before it really got started?
There might have been some type of abuse.
She knew that he wasn't good for her.
Or would he have one last video to drop
The detectives had really never seen anything like this.
It made me so angry.
Can I see this?
This was a horror movie in real life.
December 29th, 2017. It's a typical Friday in Riverdale, Georgia, a small Atlanta suburb of just over 15,000.
Riverdale is mostly a quiet community about 45 minutes outside of the city of Atlanta. Very family friendly, a nice place really to raise a family.
Riverdale is one of the safest communities on the southern part of the metropolitan area.
However, tonight is a different story. It's a few minutes before 11 p.m. when Clayton County 911 receives an urgent call.
Yeah, I'd like to report a shooting. I just heard shots in my complex.
Officers arrive on the scene minutes later.
This was a gated community, very nice condominiums, sort of middle-class folks that lived there.
Not an area you would think to find a lot of crime.
Ma'am, where heard the shots come from?
That's the apartment. That's where I heard the shots come from.
Okay, thank you. Go back inside the house, please.
The shocked resident directs officers to a second-floor unit, home of Raheem Grant, his girlfriend Sierra Harp, and their 3-year-old daughter.
They seemed like a normal and happy couple. They spent a lot of time together. They was raising a daughter.
But as officers make their way into the apartment, they find the first clue that something has gone horribly wrong.
When police arrived, they immediately found a gruesome scene.
There was a trail of blood on the ground, leading down the hallway.
Raheem was laying in the floor with a pool of blood gathering around him.
He was riddled with gunshot wounds.
He had already succumbed to his injuries.
But there was no sign of Sierra or the couple's 3-year-old child.
36 Alpha. Go ahead and start major crimes.
Who has targeted this star on the rise? As police race to find their shooter, they have no idea that they may already be closer than they think. 28-year-old Raheem Grant had spent his whole life chasing a dream.
Raheem's number one love was music.
He just loved music. He started with his drums at 5 years old, then he went to the keyboard.
He started rapping at an early age, too, performing on a local TV show that his mother produced.
Raheem was the educational rapper in that show, and he would come on and teach kids. He went on from there to appear on Showtime at the Apollo, and from Showtime at the Apollo, he went on to do all type of events, just touring all over to different schools, different places, different states.
By 2012, he'd grown into a serious artist.
He became not only just a rapper, but an engineer, a producer. He knew how to go into a studio. He could mix, master, record, and help you with your lyrics and everything.
He was also making a name for himself in the Atlanta rap scene.
Artists like him who are up and coming, they get local fame first because they're always in the nightclubs. They're out promoting themselves.
He was making some serious inroads. He was really breaking into the hip-hop culture here in this area.
He knew some of the biggest rap names here in the Atlanta area.
He got to know artists like Ludacris, Big Boy, Goody Mob, really everybody in the industry.
Raheem's music career wasn't the only thing heating up for the rising star, though. He was also lucky in love after a chance encounter with 28-year-old Sierra Harp in 2013.
She said she saw him and said, "Oh my goodness, he is so fine. I gotta have him." So she went over where he was and she introduced herself. And she told him, I know you. I've seen you before.
Raheem played it cool, like there was no big thing that she recognized him.
Soon, Sierra and Raheem were seeing one another, casually.
She was dealing with a whole lot of other guys, and he had a conglomerate of people around him, girls especially.
But within a few months, their casual relationship had taken a serious turn.
Sierra told Raheem she was pregnant.
We went and did the blood test, and it came out to be his, and he was just shocked, like, I can't believe this.
However, once his little girl was born, Raheem's shock turned to devotion.
He looked at her, he said, Okay, come on, Shawty. You're going to have to hang with Daddy now. And from that day on, he took her everywhere.
Sierra was just as devoted to Raheem.
She was in love with him. She supported him in his craft.
We made her like, a part of the family.
Raheem's mom welcomed Sierra into their family and tried to encourage Sierra to think of her future.
She told me she didn't graduate from school, and I was trying to talk to her about, well, you need to get yourself together. Let's go back and get your GED.
As a result, Raheem's mother and Sierra became close.
She told me that she wished that I was her mother.
While Sierra bonded with Raheem's mother, he embraced fatherhood.
He became a totally different person. He became in dad mode, and he started to get away from just having a fun as opposed to, I have a daughter and now I have to take responsibility.
He's a loving father who was getting his life on the right track.
However, even as Raheem and Sierra were putting down roots, his rap career was about to blow up.
He was in demand and we were everywhere.
His mom was his manager. Sierra was his #1 fan, really, and he was really on his way.
He was getting ready to go to Vegas, and he was getting ready to tour.
They were looking forward to big and better things coming for Raheem.
But Raheem's breakthrough tour would never happen. Responding to a 911 call, police have just found the rapper's bullet-riddled body on the floor of his apartment hallway.
Raheem was dead. There was no way to really save him.
But where are Sierra and the couple's 3-year-old daughter?
Looking around, officers noticed a trail of blood that led out of the apartment.
Police follow the blood to a neighboring unit in the building, where they find Sierra covered in blood.
She was in bad shape. She had stab wounds to her body.
And when the officers ask Sierra what happened, she's anything but clear.
You don't know what I've been through.
At the end of 2017, Raheem Grant and his girlfriend, Sierra Harp, were poised to conquer the music world.
Raheem had some traction in his career. He was starting to gain some fame.
He was just about to go on a tour around the country with his music.
But just a few days before the new year begins, Raheem and Sierra's fantasy life has turned into a nightmare.
After officers responded to a report of shots fired, police found Raheem dead in his apartment.
Police find Sierra in a neighbor's apartment, alive but bloody and battered.
What's your name now?
They have to figure out, did these two people attack each other or did someone attack these two people?
Unfortunately, Sierra is in no condition to help them.
You don't know what I've been through.
Sierra was in an emotional state that was somewhat uncontrollable. The way she was trying to communicate was not indicative of a person of reason at that time.
Police couldn't get a coherent answer out of her.
Hey, what's going on?
Things are further confused when an EMT arrives to aid Sierra.
She was stabbed several times in the leg. Cuts to her lower extremity, both legs had wounds on them.
They actually had to take her to a hospital.
The couple's 3-year-old daughter is taken to the hospital too.
Sierra and Raheem's daughter appeared unharmed, but EMTs still wanted to give her a full evaluation.
While the EMTs transport Sierra and her daughter to the emergency room, homicide detectives from the Clayton County Sheriff's Department arrive on the scene.
Riverdale has their own police department, but Clayton County is a support for the area. They start taking notes on what evidence needs to be collected. All those things will help and lead to a greater chance of solving the crime.
Detectives also talk to the neighbor who lives in the apartment where the officers found Sierra.
So, how did Sierra come to be at your apartment this evening?
Well, I heard gunshots, and I was about to call 911 when Sierra showed up at my door.
She runs over to the neighbor's house. She's running to safety.
Any idea what happened?
No, I just heard shots, and then she showed up.
She did tell police that Sierra gave her a gun.
The detectives take the gun, a .380 automatic into evidence.
Police asked that neighbor if Sierra would ever shoot Raheem if they had any problems whatsoever.
Well, they seem like a perfect couple to me. The little girl was precious.
From the neighbors, detectives retrace Sierra's steps to where Raheem lies dead inside their apartment.
As you walk into the apartment, he was lying face down.
Detectives find a bloody knife on the bathroom counter, not far from Raheem's body.
It wasn't a kitchen knife. It was clearly a weapon with a sharp, double-edged blade.
Other evidence allows detectives to tentatively reconstruct what happened.
They found evidence that was indicative of a struggle. There was blood stains, there was holes in the wall, and he was laying in the floor, partially straddling the entrance to the bathroom.
The mirror that was right behind Raheem's body was shattered into pieces.
There's little to indicate exactly why the shooting occurred, but detectives have a hunch.
It could appear that this was a domestic incident, but it would be irresponsible to jump to conclusions based on what you have in front of you. You try to look at how the person lived and see if the lifestyle might have contributed to what happened that evening.
Raheem was up and coming in the Atlanta rap scene. Detectives had to consider the possibility that this was some kind of beef or altercation with another rapper.
Then, detectives find evidence that potentially rules out the theory that the shooter came from outside.
They found several .380 caliber shell casings around his body, which right away matched the gun they found at the neighbors.
This suggested that Sierra was in fact the one to shoot Raheem, but it still wasn't clear why. It all appeared to line up with a self-defense type shooting.
On the floor near his body, detectives recover what they believe is Raheem's phone.
There's a passcode on it, so they can't get into it right away.
Elsewhere in the apartment, detectives also find a small amount of marijuana.
It appeared to be Raheem's personal stash.
Next, detectives speak with a neighbor who had called the shooting in to the police.
Typically, during these type of investigations, you talk to witnesses, you talk to neighbors, you gather information.
She says that she's shocked by what's happened.
The neighbors only had good things to say about Raheem and Sierra.
But does this seemingly happy couple have a deadly secret?
Detectives really needed to talk to Sierra.
Detectives wondered if there was a history of abuse. Could Raheem have attacked her? Was that how she ended up with stab wounds on her legs?
The first responding officer, he thought it was self-defense.
In the early morning hours of December 30th, 2017, detectives in Clayton County, Georgia are struggling to unravel the mystery behind the death of Raheem Grant. The up-and-coming rapper had been shot dead the night before in his suburban Atlanta apartment, possibly by his girlfriend, 28-year-old Sierra Harp.
After the shooting, Sierra fled to a neighbor's apartment, clutching the gun and covered in stab wounds.
Sierra injuries required medical treatment, but they were not life-threatening.
Later that afternoon, while waiting for Sierra to be released from the hospital, detectives review the results from Raheem's autopsy.
According to the autopsy, he was shot 6 times.
However, that's not all that the autopsy found.
Raheem had some lacerations that might be indicative of being cut with some type of sharp blade.
Coupled with the stab wounds Sierra suffered, the findings point to several scenarios.
He may have stabbed himself.
It's not uncommon for a knife-wielding assailant to accidentally cut themselves during a struggle.
You can tell by the apartment that there had been some type of altercation.
But to know what really happened, detectives need to talk to Sierra. As soon as she's released from the hospital, they bring her into the station to make a formal statement.
So we didn't really get a chance to talk, obviously, because there's a lot going on. But can you tell me exactly what happened?
I don't remember how anything started.
According to Sierra, Raheem was in the living room, relaxing.
She told police that Raheem was intoxicated and on Xanax when this all started.
although Sierra says that's typically not a problem.
I didn't mind because I knew that with him being on Xanax, he's a difficult person to deal with.
Sierra told police that Raheem was violent.
The abuse started, I want to say, after I had my daughter. No, it was before that because he beat me while I was pregnant with my daughter.
Sierra told police that Raheem had beaten her for the 4 years they had been together.
But you kept going back.
Yes, I did because I loved him. And I wanted things to work.
Not one time did she file a report. Not one time did she complain to authorities that he had beaten her.
The relationship they have is somewhat of a roller coaster. They had their ups and downs.
But Sierra says that on Friday night, the couple's roller coaster had taken a final, fatal plunge. And according to Sierra, it had started with another woman.
That night, Sierra was there cooking dinner, and Raheem had this fitness trainer that he was good friends with. And the fitness trainer came over.
Her name was Trisha Williams.
They were so-called gym buddies.
When Sierra mentioned Trisha, detectives immediately wondered if they were dealing with a love triangle.
According to Sierra, the answer is no.
She would come over and buy weed like 2 or 3 times.
Sierra said Raheem sold a little weed on the side.
Sierra says that before Trisha came over, Raheem had asked her to check on their daughter in the bedroom.
He just said, I'm about to take care of some business, and I just said, okay.
Okay. You don't know if he was talking about his music business or...
No, I knew when he says business, I know it's always talking about him selling weed.
Okay.
Because if it's his music, he says, I'm about to do my music, so just keep her quiet, or I'm about to do a studio session, just keep her quiet, talking about our daughter.
Right.
So anytime it was dealing with anything like that, I knew it was doing him talking about selling something.
Sierra says that she spent several minutes in the bedroom, but that Raheem had eventually called her back into the living room.
Sierra?
What?
What you doing back here?
He called me out of the room while she was there, and so I just walked back to the room.
Right.
However, according to Sierra, it was a fatal mistake.
One thing Sierra pointed out is that Raheem hated to be ignored.
Yo, what's your problem?
The brush-off was enough to enrage Raheem.
Sierra said that as she was making her way back to the bedroom, Raheem confronted her.
He said something, I don't remember what he was saying.
Did you fight him?
No, I did not. I knew better than do that. The first time I ever tried to hit him back, he knocked my ass unconscious.
I mean, let's talk about it.
Next, Sierra says the more she tried to defuse the situation, the angrier Raheem became.
I mean, if that's what it takes.
She said he is so mad with her until it was uncontrollable.
Trisha heard the fight and then left in a hurry.
With Trisha gone, Sierra says Raheem became even more violent.
He came after me and he hit me. He hit me 2 to 3 times. I felt the floor.
Sierra says that when she hit the floor, her knife fell out of her pocket.
She said she carried a knife routinely for self-protection.
I keep it in my back pocket whenever we leave the house.
But Sierra says that on the night he died, Raheem had turned the knife on her.
The knife fell out of her pocket. It drew the attention of Mr. Grant. He then picked up the knife.
He said, oh, so you were going to stab me? And I'm screaming, no, I wasn't going to stab you.
Sierra says that Raheem, high and enraged, had ignored her pleas.
According to Sierra, Raheem started stabbing at her leg.
He was trying to stab me in my stomach, but I brought my knees up to where he couldn't stab me in my stomach.
She told police that she was kicking her legs, trying to kick him away.
Detectives suspected that this may have been how the knife ended up cutting Raheem.
With Raheem wounded, Sierra says that she tried to scramble to her feet.
I was trying to push myself up off the ground to get up, and I was feeling around because I had blood and tears in my eyes.
As Sierra fumbled around, her hand brushed something.
She said she came in contact with a gun.
Whose gun was it? Was it his? Was it yours?
No, it was his father's.
Okay. Where's the gun normally?
On him, in his pocket.
During the struggle, that weapon fell out
And according to Sierra, what happened next was pure instinct.
I couldn't see anything. I just started shooting. Wherever I heard him, I wasn't trying to kill him.
Questioned by detectives after her release from the hospital, 28-year-old Sierra Harp has just confessed to killing her boyfriend, Raheem Grant, an up-and-coming rap artist and the father of Sierra's child.
I don't even remember seeing the gun. I was just feeling around on the floor, and that's when I felt it. And I grabbed it, and I just started shooting.
Her story is, he assaulted her. She picked that gun up to defend herself, and she fired several shots.
And I just remember shooting. And I turned around, and I grabbed my daughter, and I ran. That was it. And I ran to the neighbor's house, and I said, please help me.
According to Sierra, she didn't even learn that Raheem was dead until the next day in the hospital.
I didn't mean to do it.
In the interview, Sierra appeared quite distraught about what happened.
I love that boy so much.
Now it's up to detectives to determine, is Sierra telling the truth?
When a person makes a statement like that, an investigator will try to match their story up with what actually the evidence on the scene.
Her injuries appear to fit with the struggle she described.
This was a chaotic moment. She was kicking at Raheem and getting stabbed in the legs.
However, Sierra's claims of prior abuse are more difficult to substantiate.
There was no history of violence, no real history of even them arguing.
There is no documentation or indication before this incident that there was a level of violence in the relationship.
Sierra also claimed that Raheem was selling marijuana, but if that was true, he'd never been arrested for it.
There's some rumors, but he was a young male in the rap game. They dib and dabble in the street life, but I think it's also a part of being marketable.
When you have somebody like Raheem, you have kind of two different people.
Everybody knew how he was. He was a rapper and his persona was to be hardcore.
Who was the real Raheem? To answer that question, detectives first turned to the other young woman Sierra claimed was in the apartment the night that he died, Raheem's gym buddy, Trisha Williams.
When detectives brought her in for questioning, she confirmed that she did go over to Raheem's on the night of the shooting.
However, Trisha denies going over to the apartment to buy drugs.
So what were you doing over at his apartment?
I was just there listening to the new tracks that he said. That was it.
Which, according to Trisha, didn't go over well with Sierra.
She says, Sierra comes up and just says hi and goes back into the room. She's obviously upset.
Trisha says that Raheem, equally irritated with Sierra, had followed her down the hallway.
She doesn't stay long because she feels like, hey, I got to get out of here. Something's going on.
Although according to Trisha, she had no idea what happened next.
She didn't hear any shooting. She didn't hear anything really happen after the fight.
For detectives, Trisha's statement raises new questions.
Trisha's story, more or less, lined up with Sierra's account of what happened. But it may have suggested that there was some jealousy and anger on Sierra's part.
Was Sierra the innocent victim she claimed to be? There's only one other person who knows the truth. One detectives are reluctant to interview.
Raheem and Sierra's 3-year-old daughter was in the apartment when the shooting occurred.
A child that witnessed this type of incident, it traumatizes, it leaves a stain, it creates an indelible mark on the child's memory that will affect them for the rest of their life.
To see something like that, to see your mother shoot your father right in front of you, I can't imagine what she could be going through.
So before talking to the little girl, detectives turn to Raheem's mother in hopes that she can shed some light on her son's relationship with Sierra.
Raheem and his mother were very close. The mother was Raheem's manager.
When Geraldine Bryson comes down to the station for an interview, she's still struggling to process the news of her son's death.
I couldn't believe that it was like a dream. I'm like, it got to be a nightmare.
The identity of her son's killer is an even bigger shock.
I would have thinking it was like a guy or something that he had probably gotten into it with other, rappers hating on one another.
But when detectives explain the details of how Raheem supposedly died, his mother's shock turns to anger, and she offers a new theory.
They started telling me that Sierra said that he tried to kill her, tried to stab her, and she had to shoot him. And it just hit me. She murdered him.
Murdered my son.
Why do you say that?
Because their relationship was basically over. He was only hanging in there for the sake of his daughter.
Raheem's mother told police that Sierra was not handling Raheem's fame too well and didn't like all of this newfound attention.
She was just getting so possessive. He had girls everywhere, Raheem, it was no thing. He was here and there with girls all the time.
Sierra will often get jealous and also paranoid.
If a girl or something came on in his Facebook and she saw him, she would say, "Why are you talking to my boyfriend? That's my man and that's my baby daddy and you better leave him alone."
Raheem's mother says she'd urged her son to end the relationship.
It was toxic. She was obsessive, she was jealous, and I tried to get him to see that.
His mother also says that in recent months, Raheem had come to realize that she was right.
He said, "You're just going to be the mother of my child. That's what you are. And that's just it. It won't never be anymore."
Despite Sierra's obsession, Raheem's mom tells detectives that it initially appeared that Sierra had accepted the impending breakup.
Raheem had unofficial custody of their 3-year-old daughter, and he wanted Sierra to come over during the holidays so she and her daughter could bond.
But Raheem's mother also says there were signs that Sierra was having second thoughts. Sierra didn't seem willing to accept the impending breakup.
He was saying that, she had made a statement that, I could just tell the police you did something to me, and then they would come and arrest you.
Fearing Sierra might follow through on her threat, Raheem's mother says she'd offered her son some advice.
I said, "Listen to me. If you feel uncomfortable at any point in time, just video everything. That way, if the police come, then you'll have some backup for you to tell what happened."
But now Raheem's mother wondered if her son's phone would reveal the truth about his death.
I told them, "Have you checked his phone?"
There might be proof that could help with this case.
A little more than 72 hours after Sierra Hart shot and killed her boyfriend, Raheem Grant, inside their suburban Atlanta apartment, detectives are starting to suspect Sierra didn't act in self-defense.
Raheem's mother had revealed that her son and Sierra were in the process of breaking up.
I knew she had intended to murder him. I saw the obsession that she had, and it was like, if I can't have him, no one will.
That way,
Raheem's mother also suspects the proof may be on her son's phone.
I told them, I said, "My son records everything."
Raheem had said that Sierra often accused him of abusing her. Well, his mother came up with a novel idea. Hey, each time she makes that allegation, you pull out your phone and you record everything, so we will have a record of it.
The detectives had taken Raheem's phone into evidence, but there was one problem.
They couldn't get into it. It had a code on it.
Police believe key evidence is on that phone, so they go to Sierra and ask her if she knows the passcode.
Sierra says no. But Raheem's mother thinks there may be a way around the passcode.
He had a SoundCloud that he would tell me about, and he's told me that he was going to save everything to his SoundCloud because everywhere he went, he recorded it, and it has enough storage. So I told him, about the storage.
Detectives serve a search warrant to the cloud storage company and soon have access to everything Raheem recorded, including the night he died.
There are actually 4 videos. 4 separate videos.
They'd automatically been uploaded to Raheem's cloud account.
They got a treasure trove of evidence. Nothing is more reliable than recorded video.
The story the videos tell is very different from what Sierra claimed.
Police look at the first video and immediately they see Raheem actually holding up the phone, covered in blood.
I see this.
He told the camera, "Look at what Sierra did to me. She stabbed me."
In her statement, Sierra had suggested that Raheem accidentally cut himself while he assaulted her.
Look at this knife. I see that. See how Hart did this.
As the video plays, detectives see exactly what happens next.
All of a sudden, you see Sierra come into the video. She comes and she has a gun, and she fires that gun at him.
You hear gunshots. Then you hear the glass shatter.
That was the bullet that shattered the bathroom mirror.
Raheem falls to the floor, his phone dropping with him, but it keeps recording.
She's screaming, "You abuse me, you're this and you're that," and she's cursing, using every level of profanity.
Don't do this. You know that I love you.
She continues to scream, and then there's another shot.
At some point, you had to know that you was being recorded. She had to see him with the cell phone, but that had no effect on her decision.
I'm dead, baby. I'm dead.
Seconds later, the first video stops, but Raheem was wrong. He's not dead, and his ordeal is just beginning. 2 minutes after the first video ends, a second begins.
He's been beating me for the past 4 years.
And this time, Sierra was holding the camera.
This was real, and it was live, and it was happening, and it just wouldn't stop.
And contrary to her previous claims, Sierra certainly isn't doing anything to stop what's happening.
I loved you.
She never tried to provide any assistance or mitigate his injuries after she caused them.
Sierra had a phone, and Raheem was on the floor, shot and bleeding, but she didn't dial 911 or do anything to save him.
He's telling her to call me. He said, call my mom. We're going to just say it's an accident. And she's like, hell no, I'm not calling.
She's telling Raheem that she's sick of him and sick of his abuse. And you abused me, you know that! You know that! And yeah, you mistreated me!
The whole time, he was more so trying to negotiate her down to keep her from doing this.
You hear him, he's telling Sierra to please stop, telling her that he'll tell police that it was all him.
I'm gonna tell her it was an accident.
He even begs for his daughter. He wants to hold his daughter one last time.
Please let me kiss her, please.
Then you hear Sierra tell him no. If he wants to see his daughter, he's gonna have to crawl to her. You can kiss her, crawl to her.
She was just angry, and it came across on the video.
The third video made it clear that Sierra didn't care about consequences.
They gonna lock you up for life. I don't care.
It was difficult to watch.
Everything about this video is awful.
But the worst is yet to come.
My grandbaby was in it.
You hear their child in the background call out for her father.
That 3-year-old little girl, she had to watch her father die.
She saw the fear in his daughter's eyes, and then that's when she shot him again.
Detectives have just uncovered shocking videos of Sierra Harp taunting her dying boyfriend as she shoots him again and again.
In those videos, you see her shooting him while he begs for his daughter. And she continues to shoot.
That really nails the case down, that Sierra was deliberate in her actions, that she knew exactly what she was doing, and that it was clearly a homicide.
During the video, you hear Raheem call out to his little girl. It really is altogether heartbreaking.
It wasn't like I thought it would be bang, 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 bang. He was dead. No, I had to endure 19 minutes from her cutting him, walking in, shooting him in the back, him falling down, and then him telling her, I'm shot, I'm dead, I'm gonna die, and her saying, no, not yet, MF. You will be dead. And just to watch that, I am just heartbroken, just mad.
The detectives actually said that the videos stopped them in their tracks. They said they had really never seen anything like this.
But Sierra still isn't done. After Raheem is dead, she records one more video.
I do not care if I go to jail for the rest of my life. I do not care what happens to me because I love you.
For Raheem's mother, there's no mistaking the meaning of Sierra's final statement.
She just decided to be wicked and evil and just want to kill him because if you couldn't have him, no one else will.
But for detectives, the videos reveal something else.
There was absolutely no evidence that Sierra acted in self-defense.
Sierra said that the injuries to her legs was caused before she even fired a single shot. But if you watch the video, as she appeared in the video, you can see on her legs there are no injuries, there's no blood, there's no evidence that she had been assaulted with a knife at that point.
Instead, detectives believe there's a far more damning explanation for the injury Sierra suffered.
Police believe Sierra was determined to make herself seem innocent and that she went to great lengths to do that. They believe she actually took a knife and stabbed her own legs to make herself look like she was the victim.
How could anybody be that cold-hearted and to do this and then turn around playing the victim and knowing what you had done?
Now that detectives know the truth, they place Sierra under arrest for murder.
They caught her in all kinds of lies.
This is the kind of story that is horrible at every turn. Not only is this young man who has such a bright future ahead of him gone, but now this 3-year-old has lost her mom and her dad.
When the case goes to trial in May of 2019, Raheem's mother is determined to see Sierra pay.
This was her only son. She loved that boy. And for him to be taken away like this, it drove her mad. And she wanted justice.
It was a murder. She plotted, she planned it, and she carried it out.
Prosecutors feel very confident because they believe this whole case is on camera.
Those videos told the story. They told a graphic story. They told a story of extermination, of execution of Raheem Grant.
It was torturous. She made him suffer. She wanted him to know that she's the person causing him this pain. She's the person causing him to die.
She can't deny any of it because it's right there on video. The jury got to see exactly what happened.
Although everyone in the courtroom has a hard time believing what they're seeing.
People were aghast. This was a horror movie in real life. We saw it. Your eyes keep telling you, I don't believe what I'm seeing, but it was real. It was real, it happened, and when that video played, I watched that jury. That jury was transfixed. They looked at Sierra and they were thinking, how could this sweet, young, beautiful woman be so vicious?
When it's the defense's turn, Sierra and her attorneys try to offer an explanation.
Sierra testified that she was very drunk that night, awfully inebriated. And she says that none of this would have happened if she had been sober.
It made me mad. It made me so angry at her because she was not a drinker. She wanted to try to get somebody to be sympathetic to her.
She also testified that she'd intend to kill him. How do you not intend to kill him if you're seen on video shooting him multiple times as he begs for his life in front of his daughter?
The only reason I didn't really go up and just slap her on the witness stand was because I had to get justice for him.
Raheem's mother won't have long to wait. After only a few hours of deliberation, the jury makes its decision.
The jury reviewed those videos and found Sierra guilty of murder.
The evidence against Sierra was overwhelming.
However, that doesn't stop her attorney from making a jaw-dropping request of the judge.
Her lawyer asked that she be sentenced to 5 years based on the fact that they tried to prove that Sierra was under the influence at the time the incident happened.
When it's her turn to speak, Sierra does her best to make amends with Raheem's mother.
She apologized to me for what she had done, and she didn't mean to do it. And I told her, yes, you did.
You showed no mercy for my son, Sierra, and I ask the court to show no mercy for you.
Sierra's mom also speaks at her daughter's sentencing.
You reveled in disrespect, foolery, and ignorance. Wherever you went, chaos and trouble was sure to follow.
Her mother wanted her to be locked up for the maximum that the law would allow.
I've been doing this 25 years. I have never seen a defendant's mother in a murder trial say the things that Sierra's mother said. And Sierra's mother told that judge, she made this request. I want you to sterilize her so she will never have children again. Can you imagine that? A mother has that type of animosity toward her daughter.
It's animosity that Sierra clearly shares.
Sierra sat there as her mother spoke, and she had the meanest glare. She stared her mother down as if, how could you? And then our cameras caught her saying the B word to her mother.
But will her mother's statement or Sierra's angry reaction have any influence on the outcome of her sentencing?
Sierra was sentenced to 125 years behind bars.
That judge, I believe his words were that she was a menace and she didn't deserve to walk the streets again.
Although even 125 years isn't enough to satisfy a mother who's lost her only son.
Jail is too good for her. I thought she should have got the death penalty. And a lot of people be like, you have to forgive her. No, I don't have to forgive her. My son meant so much to me. It was like my whole world just got destroyed.
But as heartbreaking as her loss is, Raheem's mother isn't the only one suffering.
I keep thinking about that 3-year-old little girl, how she loved Raheem. He was her world and she was his.
She would be like, just talking about my daddy is gone. I miss my daddy. Gee, Ma, I want my daddy back. Do he have a phone in heaven where I can call him?